Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right, here we are. I can't hear anybody. Let's see. There, now I can
Good
hear.
morning.
Good morning. It helps when your computer is not on mute.
Yeah.
I kept getting messages last night and they go to my computer as well as my watch and my telephone. And Bill was trying to sleep and he kept going, bing, bing, bing. He said, would you please turn that off? So I did. All right. How are we this morning?
Doing well.
Doing good. Shelley?
Up and at 'em.
Up and at 'em.
Mhm.
Yeah, for a Saturday. Very good. So I was going to tell the story of the piano and how to move a piano. So there was a minister, and for years he had tried to move the piano from one side to the other, and he got so much flack about it. And so he came for, some event there. He'd been invited and by the minister, never go back to a church that you've been at without the pastor's invitation or okay. And so he goes back and the piano is indeed on the other side of the sanctuary. And the previous minister says, how on earth did you get that piano to that other side? He said, 1 inch at a time. So every week he would move it an inch. I'm curious what he did with having it in the middle of the sanctuary, but it eventually did get over there. And if you've ever tried to do something like that, you know how difficult it is. And my personal experience, it can bite you big time in the butt. Big time butt biter.
Don't mess with the grand order of things.
Our retired minister, and we've invited him to stay, by the way, because they're family. I mean, they're just, when they came, we were looking for someone, but we didn't tell them we were interviewing them. We just invited them to fill the pulpit. And then we called and offered the job later and stuff. But when they walked in, they said they felt like they had come home. And when they were there, we felt like they had come home. So we've invited them to stay, and everybody loves him. So if you ask in a board meeting or something, can we change the order of the service or eliminate this or do that? They always say no. So he was very sneaky, I guess, about it. He would just eliminate something or move it to a different spot in the service or something, and he just did it one piece at a time and stuff. And it was, nobody really ever said anything because they didn't want to upset him because they loved him so much.
Very fun.
So now if I did that, it'd be a whole different story.
So one of the tricks there will be to get him on your side and to talk to him about and get him to advocate for you. Yeah.
Yes.
That's one of the hard pieces. Yeah, go ahead.
I will probably have to leave the meeting at about 5 till 9. My daughter got engaged last weekend while she was in Seattle, Washington. Her and her boyfriend met some friends up there that they had been friends through the internet for about 3 years. So they met him up there and met him in person. And he had sent her ring to the friend, had it shipped there. And while they were at the Space Needle, outside the Space Needle, he proposed to her.
Aww.
So they're not getting married till next October, but she is anxious to start looking at wedding dresses. So we have a 9 o'clock appointment this morning, and I'm afraid she's a bride. That show Bridezilla keeps coming to mind, and I'm afraid I'm going to have a Bridezilla before it's over with. One of us may be in a padded room.
Oh. Good morning, Jean. You are on mute. Mute. There you go. Not quite yet. Nope. Anytime I try to use my iPad or my phone, it is a pain trying to get off mute. I opt for the computer every time. Yeah. Still on mute.
I thought the host could unmute you.
I
There.
can't. I can
Oh.
I can mute
There
you,
it goes.
but the best I can do is ask you to unmute.
Oh,
Yeah,
You have the
there's
power to mute us?
pardon?
You have the power to mute us? Oh, man, that's a lot of power. I wish I had the power to mute some people.
I can send you to the waiting room. I can report you. Yeah. Yeah, I often tech for a 12-step meeting. In fact, like after this, and we've been Zoom bombed before. And the first time it happened, it just totally unnerved me. And I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't quite know what to do. And I was trying to get them out and report them, but it just was taking too much time. So I did learn, just send them to the waiting room and then you can get them in there. But this one time we had about 7 people bombing at the same time. It was the first time that had happened. And so trying to figure it out, and they just kept popping in there. And it's an Overeaters Anonymous 12-step group. And this one jerk, he was very, 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 very heavy. And he had a bag of potato chips. And in our meetings, we don't even mention food. I mean, we can talk about lunch, dinner, blah, blah, but you don't mention a specific kind of food. And there he is, just chowing out. So it's like waiting room. That's what I do. If I don't recognize a name or it's a weird name, waiting room, I just wait and pause to go. So yeah. But for these meetings, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Nobody should bomb us.
Yeah.
Should. Yeah. Let's see. So questions, thoughts, what do we have?
well, I have one, not a question, but besides doing the spiritual practice this week that I said I was going to do, which I did do, I also did what I told you, Chris, I was going to do, and did the creative
Oh,
out of leather.
Awesome.
beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Wow, that is amazing.
And I kept thinking about Onward Christian Soldiers while I was doing it.
Wow.
That was difficult to do, I'm sure.
Well, I've been doing leather work for 43 years, so it was just a matter of creative. I've been thinking about it for quite a while. Any of you want to see my other work, you can go to Facebook on craft-t leather.
Would you repeat that?
Craft-t, craft with a C. It's crafty leather.
Thank you.
Would you guys do me a favor? I got kicked off Facebook in February for posting explicit, exploitive explicit material that exploits children. Somebody totally hijacked my business account, which was a sub account of my personal account. And so they kicked me off and I could not get back on. And it was in this huge loop. And finally, after 60 days, I still couldn't get back in. I tried to set up an account under a different name, Bill's birth date. I got a different Gmail account and it was still link to my ISP. And so they still would not let me, it said, you have been not kicked off, but you were blocked for blah, blah, blah. And if you want to dispute this, and I tried to dispute it, and then they said, it's been longer than 45, I think it's 45 or 60 days. And so your account is gone. So all of my content on my personal account, my business account, I had a Sitting with the Spirit was one of my accounts, gone. So now I'm back on. I have an account again, and I'm trying to friend people, but sometimes it tells me that I can't friend people. Like there are some people it won't let me friend, and other people it will. So like one of my daughters, it wouldn't let me friend her. It makes no sense whatsoever. So would you go up there, and I should be under Chris Tenny-Brittian, and see if you could friend me. I would really like to get my list back together. And if you can't, my husband, Bill Tenny-Brittian, is up there, and you'll find my name there. But yeah, I would be really, really grateful. I'll see if I can find, I've got an extension too. Facebook. Blah, blah, blah. Sign in. So there I am. Come on, come on, come on. Where am I? That's what I want. Okay, so yeah, this is, and so if you go to facebook.com, I'm Dr. Chris TB, no hyphen. And I'll put it in the chat. There we go. Voila. All right, thanks so much. Okay. Cody, a real quick business piece with you. Did you get my email that I sent last night?
I did. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. The rest of you, week 6 is open. Don't go to it until Monday, because in about 3 hours, you are on Sabbath until Monday. Except for Cody, he gets no Sabbath.
No Sabbath for me. But I get a really spiritual week. So that's the thing, is this is the perfect class for me to take off twice in, because I'm doing spiritual habits at camp. So
That is so cool. Nice, nice, nice.
I do feel bad for taking 2 weeks off though.
But you didn't take them off, really. I mean, you were right in there with us. And yeah, I was telling Bill this morning, I couldn't have a better class than you guys. So you're all so diligent, and you're in there, and I'm really grateful. Thank you. Thank you for making it a great session.
It's been
Thank
good.
you for all of the knowledge that, and I mean, I wish you taught all the classes, because you're so upbeat and spiritual, and I feel better after our Zoom sessions and stuff.
I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I often think of Paul's words, I give to you that which was given to me on the night that our Lord, right, last night he had supper. And yeah, so much has been poured into me and given to me over the years that, you pass that on. And so I hope you all will pass that on. And, Bill Easum, he's 82 now. He's not 83 yet, he's 82, and essentially has retired, but he was the first of 3. And if you look at the church growth movement, and this is a whole other conversation, but if you look at the church growth movement from back in the 70s, Bill Easum is one of the first 3 of what we would call consultants. He and Herb Miller and, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Okay, and a third guy whose name may come to me. Anyways, all 3 of them had been in churches that had grown, and people wanted to know, what did you do? And so they were talking to people, here and there, and they started to write books and or articles, and so then people were really calling on their knowledge, and out of that, this whole role of consultants came around, and they started doing I'm sorry, I keep trying to think of this guy. His name keeps like bopping around and I can see him. And I just can't believe this. Anyways, so they became these first consultants, and probably until about 10, 15 years ago, if you said the name Bill Easum, people would know who that is. And now they really don't. But this guy, a prophet, and he wrote very, very boldly. We were introduced to him in writing really by one of his books. And I hated his book, absolutely hated it. And Bill loved it. And it was called Dancing with Dinosaurs, and it predicted the death of denominations. And I hated that because I'm such a denominationalist. I really believe in denominationalism. And it's like, how can you talk about, the death of denominations? You're going to cause it. By talking about it, you're going to cause it. We're going to do what you're talking about. And then I met him when Bill and I, he did an experiment in church planting, and Bill and I were chosen as was it one of the 4 or 6 finalists? I guess there were 6 finalists to start a new congregation, which is how we ended up in Seattle, Shelley. And when we met him for the first time, he is, you think, maybe y'all don't, but like, when I think about these giants, they're big, like Fred Craddock. The first time I saw him, he was an elder in our home church, and I'd heard about him. I'd seen his videos and everything. And we were in church, and Bill says, oh, there's Fred Craddock. And I said, where? And he says, over there. And I'm looking, where's Fred Craddock? And he goes like this and pulls my head down, pushes my head down. He goes, there. And he's this little short guy. And is similar. He's not too tall, very slight man, wears cowboy boots. He's from Texas, has lived all his life in Texas. He speaks with this slow Texas drawl. And he is the most humble man you will ever meet, but he loves God and he loves the church, and in true prophetic fashion, he knows what the church can be, what God calls the church. Well, now these days he doesn't think the church can be, but he knows what God calls the church to be and how we won't live up to that, and that just pains him. My husband is very similar. I think that's why they're so close. But I'm saying all of this because, one, I needed you to know who Bill Easum is. And that's why I say my Bill, because there's Bill Easum, and then my Bill. But he believed in you pass it on. And, you disciple people, you mentor people, you apprentice people. And he did that for us. And so he was just one more in that line of mentors. My pastors came up and walked beside me. So, I can't not do that. It just gets to be monster types.
We had our elder meeting this week, Thursday night, and I used your Lord's Prayer Revisited. In that, we start the meeting off with devotion and prayer, but then I go to chance with what are the concerns, health concerns and all. Then we do what we call circle the wagons, where everyone's holding hands and each one of us pray. And we're trying to get each elder to feel comfortable in impromptu type prayer. And then I went right into your Lord's Prayer Revisited. But I gave it over to Chance after that. And where I'm going with this is that this class, I don't know how God's working this, but he's got Chance doing the same spiritual development type thing, because he went into his part of the program and he put up on the board where you go. He's trying to train the elders to look at the fact that we are disciples, and we're right in between disciples and disciple makers, instead of being interested, curious, believer, disciple. And it was like, hey, this is going right along with class.
I love it.
Stages of faith.
God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform.
Yeah, because we haven't been talking, him and I, about the class or anything. So yeah, it's all God.
I love that your elders show up for the meetings.
Oh,
I
yeah.
tried to have, when I was over the elders, I tried to set up meetings and it would be me and maybe one other person. And
Well,
no one would, I could not get the interest because they
We-
know everything.
we are a very strong elder group. We just installed 4 more, and so that brings us up to 21. And I had 18 the other night.
Wow,
Yeah, they're very strong and they work hard.
Cindy,
that's awesome.
what is your average worship attendance?
We're right at 147, 148 now.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, revision team's kind of looking into hiring another staff person.
It's time, definitely time.
Yeah, Chance is going to get overworked. I'm afraid he's going to burn out.
Yeah. Ministers can't handle more than 99 average worship. And
Mhm.
that's really pushing it. That really needs to be active membership. Used to be you needed 120 to afford a full-time minister. That used to be the break. And Rick Morris, who was head of church, or he wasn't head of church, but New Planning Ministries, he said the reason that was that 120, it was that low, was because we're disciples. So in other denominations, you needed more than that, of course, because you paid more, your ministers more. We pay our ministers so low. And, we continue to do that. So my guess is that you need quite a few people. You need fewer people who are serious about stewardship. If you've got people who, are really serious about stewardship. But you need that to be able to afford a minister. But the hard part is this is the closer you get to 200, when you're hitting that 150 mark or so, you really need to bring on another pastor to help you break that 200, 250 ceilings. So, there are ceilings, right? Size ceilings, and you need that second. The one piece to keep in mind, though, is there's never enough money. But that's just the way it is. Even in mega churches, people think, oh yeah, mega churches, or if we were bigger, we would just be able. Even in mega churches, there's never enough money because we're called to do bigger ministry than what we can do.
Well, we're fortunate in that we paid off our mortgage last year.
Nice.
So, and people are still giving. They're still doing their stewardship thing. So we had a campaign start maybe a month ago for a new digital sign of 17,000, and the last report I got, we were 1,000 away from it. People are very giving, but we are a retirement type church where you have that age of group. We're fortunate. God has blessed us.
To point out just how extraordinary you all are. In a lot of retirement age churches, people say, oh, I'm on a fixed income. And I think those of us that are on salaries, it's just, well, I'm on a fixed income too. At least you're getting cost of living raises, which, a lot of ministers here, oh, we've got to cut your salary, or we need to cut back on salary. There's inflation. It's like, yeah, wait a minute. Why do you think? Yeah. So you really are in an amazing congregation. Cindy, I've been thinking about your craft fair that you had told me about.
Yeah.
When is that?
October. I got to look at a calendar. It's the second weekend in October.
And where specifically is your church?
It'd be my church?
Yeah.
Or
I've got two questions going for you.
Okay. The church is in Laurie, Missouri.
It is Laurie.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I've always pronounced.
If you look it up, you might find the address as far as Gravois Mills, Missouri. But the fair is the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th of October. And Cody, for you, it's in Mount Vernon, Missouri.
Okay.
It's a huge, huge craft show, Cody,
Yeah.
that they have over 400 vendors and
Oh my.
I think it even gets on to your channel 8 or 13 or something every once
Yeah.
in a while.
Cool.
And they use
Well,
their church's parking lot,
Oh, okay.
which is
All
what's
right.
fascinating.
Yeah, not just all the churches use the parking lots for free for people to park, and
Yeah.
they shuttle them. They shuttle them from the churches downtown. And
That's
I just
cool.
checked with the Christian church this week. They let us park our motorhome in their parking lot and furnish the electricity for us. And I just checked with them because I asked them to upgrade to a 30 amp service and I would pay for it. Well, they upgraded, but they didn't charge me. So
Aw,
Awesome.
I give them donation then, so they're going to get a little extra this year.
very nice.
I
Shelley,
went to, this was one of Jack's churches, Chris,
huh,
Jack Daniel.
yeah,
He went from our church down to there, and that's how I got started. And he's no longer there, but I went on a mission trip with several of the people from that church, so I know them and have a more intimate relationship with them. So
nice,
it keeps going.
nice. Okay, well, 1 second, Shelley, I know that it's now 6:57. You're at 3 minutes till, and you probably need to leave us. Thank you for coming here and have fun shopping and good luck trying to keep a bridezilla down to a little Zilla.
Well,
Congratulations.
I'm hoping she will be one of the nice ones.
But
So,
Shelley,
and I'm
Shelley,
waiting on her to get here.
Shelley, think of it as a creative prayer time where you're creating a good experience.
That's a very good advice
I
there.
love it. I love it.
I may be sitting there saying the Lord's Prayer or something through the whole thing. I may be chanting it.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Yes.
I was
Well,
gonna.
y'all have a
Oh, go ahead.
very blessed week, and I
Yeah.
will see y'all next week.
You
Okay.
too. Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So I was going to show you, I picked these up. I hate not going on retreats, spiritual retreats anymore, because, or at least not at retreat centers that are large and have gift shops. But this is, let's see if I can do this. It's a ring and it has 12 rounds on it, 12 little,
Oh,
and a cross. So it starts with a cross. I said 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's got 10 and the cross. But to be able to wear it is too big for my fingers. So I have to wear it on my thumb. And just to be able, it reminds me. And I hate that it clicks when I type on my computer, but that reminds me as well. And so it helps me to keep centered.
Yeah.
It's set up, so it's a rosary ring so that you can go around with it. But yeah, those reminders, those things. They used to have, I carry this cross in my pocket. Some of you remember those. You can,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
my husband carries a nail that one of the old fashioned like shoeing a horse nail that our preacher gave out to everyone to remind you of the nails in the hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the accountability partner this week,
Please, yes.
and it was, I suggest that everybody do that, and not just for a week, but it was so awesome to be able to talk to somebody, because we know what we're reading in scripture and we know how it hits us, but to hear it from somebody else and hear what they're reading and how they've read it differently than we have if we've read that passage, and just to know that somebody is praying specifically for you and you're praying specifically for someone else's needs. It was great. It was a great practice. So
Thank you.
and just spoiler, that'll be on my list for this week of favorite practices. So
Awesome. I think we're going into week 6. So I don't remember. I don't think it's this week. It'll be week 7. Yeah, I've been working ahead, so I'm confused myself. But I have the journey group, and Cody, I know we've had several classes together, and I'm thinking we did this in one class. We've had education and leader development together, yeah? Do you
I think that's my last class to take with you, I
okay.
believe.
So I have it in that course, and it's the journey groups. So it's an actual, and I used to do this at the clergy training. So
Yeah.
you may have it, and I don't have my Bible here in front of me. But it's a tripart brochure, and it goes through praying for others, and it's an accountability group
Yeah.
brochure. It's not brochure, it's trifold.
Okay.
And the questions, prayers, way to pray for people.
Yeah.
So you add to that accountability,
Yeah.
people you want to pray for. Yeah. Good. Yay.
I really enjoyed it.
Praise God.
And my partner did too, I think. So
Very cool. Good job. All right, questions, other thoughts?
I don't know what it was about Fowler this week, but it made more sense to me than it has the past 5. And I don't know what if I read it in a different setting or what, but I understood this chapter more than I have. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm in my adolescent phase, but
It's okay. Cool. This next week, he talks about symbols. He's going on to we talk about the next phases, and it's interesting to me. He starts to talk about phase 5, and he says, with phases you can't really recognize them until you're in them. Right? You've been there, you're in them. And with this one phase, I forget which one though, he said, he doesn't even know that it exists, that it seems like it exists. When you look at development theories, it logically, theoretically exists, but essentially he's not there. So he really can. It sounds like an existential argument of some sort. So it becomes interesting. But one of the questions, just to give you all a heads up, I was talking to Bill about it, my Bill, and I told him I hope it doesn't toss you for a loop, but it's about symbols, and you'll read in him, about symbols, and that as we grow, develop spiritually, how symbols for us can get shattered. So, the church, there's a symbol of church, and often church, for a lot of us, church is a symbol for God. And so that realization that, for me, the realization that the church is not God was a huge shatter, and having to rethink that one through. Ministry, congregational ministry is service to God. That's another symbol that I had to reckon with over, past 5 years or so. Yeah, what makes a minister? A big C call. That's the answer to that one. Try to argue that before a commission on ministry. Because with people who aren't there, right? Who don't understand that whole logic. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot about the elders the other night. You could, when I looked around the room, and they were all deciding what place they were in, and Chance was trying to get them to understand that they're in the disciple making position now, because they're leading and teaching, that they didn't have to be down here with the interested and the curious, that was where we have to be able to discern who is the believer that can work on the people, that it goes in kind of a flow chart type thing. But as looking around the room, it was like I was seeing people's eyes kind of roll and go, I'm not there, and so it was interesting.
That brings us back to one of Jean's questions or comments that you made about leading. How do we lead? And, for me, it's about discipleship. How do we disciple others? And that there is this difference between being in a leadership position, but then leading other people deeper into their faith. That's that disciple piece. And excuse me, ultimately, we want our people, our leaders to be disciples, right? But we got a lot of work to get them there and ourselves there. I know at Raytown Christian, they adopted a discipling, I hate to call it program. They implemented, I'll say this, they implemented a discipling ministry, but I'm struggling for words. So it wasn't a ministry like you can do this or you can do that. It was more than a ministry. And I don't like to call church ministries or church things programs, but that's akin to, a metaphor maybe there. So the deal is you're discipled, and it's weeks. I want to say it's like a 6-month process. And this church, he talked to the minister of discipling at this church. And he was the one who Bill met with for all of these weeks being discipled. And so it walks you through all these different ways, how you relate to God. It's got prayer, you read scripture. It is heavy duty stuff, and you're doing homework between your meetings with your discipler. And then when you're done with it, it's with the whole expectation that you'll disciple somebody else. And so he introduced that to his leaders there at Raytown. And so reluctantly, many of them began to do them. No, some of them. And then people began to hear stories from some of them, and they moved and got in that unless you went through the discipling course, it's not a course, but unless you'd been discipled and you had gone through and were discipling someone else, you couldn't be in leadership. They really raised the bar. And for those who would not belly under the bar, even, boy, they raised a stink. But they just, the leadership bought into that. And they let the guy who's on the board, they let him slide. He had started and hadn't finished it, and he's on there. But to see his growth has been amazing. And with all the crap, there's crap going on at Raytown, and Bill will retire from congregational ministry. He'll be working full-time with Effective Church now, managing Effective Church. But with his retirement, Dave, the board chair, hasn't completed that. And he has said to Bill, I want to complete it after you leave. And Bill's like, oh, there's a ethical piece there. And so they're negotiating that right now. Okay, stop it. Yeah, they're negotiating all of that. But it's how we raise the bar, and we challenge ourselves. And in teaching and discipling someone else, we're still discipling ourselves. And there's this one woman, I'm so impressed with her. She has discipled 6 or 8 people at this point, and now they're discipling others. And it's intense. Oh my gosh, it's intense. But the difference it's making around those who have gone through that. You can tell those who have engaged and are engaging it, and those who have turned their nose and are spiteful and ugly.
Well, that brings up a question. Is your book out yet? The Hope for Habits book?
I asked him, I told him just 2 days ago, I said, where are we in that? And he told me that he has to completely redo it for size purposes. And I told him, well, if you'll just tell me how to do that, then I will I will do that. But that entails learning a whole different program. I don't remember the name of the program. It's an Acrobat program that lets you, or an Adobe, it's not Acrobat, an Adobe program that you have to do. He said he doesn't think it's going to be hard, but I'm not so sure. It's not that big that I shouldn't be able to do it. My idea, I just wanted to shrink the pictures, like shrink the page. It doesn't work. So no, it's not. It is not. Mm-mm. I
'Cause
know.
I'm anxious to use it.
Thank you.
I'm anxious to use it with my elders
Well, that
and
is,
start there and then go on to the congregation.
thank you. Well, I will tell him that. And probably as soon as I get my conflict class off the ground in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is, then I'll move over to that. Yeah, and I want to take that discipling program that he got and they've used at Raytown, but it's still in that church's, it's in their format, and we're trying, and it's a very, very, very conservative. They're not Southern Baptist. I don't even know if they're a denomination, quite honestly. And we want to adapt it for in more mainline language, same precepts basically. And he said there are some things that he would like to just kind of switch around. So I want to do that adaptation so then it can be used beyond just individual congregation. Yeah, thank you for asking me. Now I'll really get on him. And my best friend actually is, she's a retired United Methodist District Superintendent, and she's lodged in a congregation, and their new minister, they're starting a small group around spirituality. And the first set of it, they're bouncing off what the minister is preaching, and then this second, they're looking at what they'll do second. And she said, I really would like to use this. So yeah, sooner than later. Okay, anything else good for the order? Questions, thoughts? Jean?
Well, for you guys, the rest of you guys, another small group thing I did one time was the Bad Girls. What's the name of the book? The lady, but it's a bad girl. It's all about women, the bad women in the Bible study. And I had it in my house at my home, and it's funny, but there was about 8 of us, 10 of us maybe, and one of our ladies moved to Kansas City, and she came back this last Sunday to do the special music. She's a wonderful piano player. And I'm walking in at the same time her, and I go, whoa, one of the bad girls has returned. So there is a camaraderie now. I mean, you can just tell it between that small group.
Yes. Let's see, do I have time to tell another story? Okay, I want to give another shout out for a study, and this again for women in particular, although I wish it could be done for men. What really changed my life was a book called From the Heart of a Woman. It's by a woman named Carol Mayhall, who was married to, maybe still is, married to, I think his name is Jim or James Mayhall. It's published by Navigators. It's no longer in print, but you can get it for 99 cents on Amazon, and you can find it on eBay. It costs more than that when you pay shipping and whatnot. But her story is just very beautiful, and how her husband was in Bible college, and he was in a small group, an accountability group, and he was really growing in things, but she wasn't. She was at home, it's before women really were out working. She wrote it. It's the nicest book my ex ever gave me. It's one of like 5 really nice gifts that he gave me, 3 of which are my children. And that Yeah, and so he gave it to me. I know this for 1984 was when he gave it to me. I think for Mother's Day, and but she talked about just how bitter she was, and so she starts by talking about prayer and praying for things, and what the difference makes, and that's the charting your prayers came from her. 5-finger prayer came from her, and yeah, and having a prayer group, a group of women you could pray with, and we had a new pastor come in to our church, and I went and said, "Can we have a prayer group?" And he said, "Oh yeah," and we started a prayer group. He said, in my church I was in before seminary, we had a prayer group, and so we started a prayer group, and oh my gosh, that's where I really got to see God at work, and in ways that over and over again were so tangible, and those answers, continuous answers to prayer, and what really solidified praying for people and situations, and in getting really sad and mad when we didn't pray for people. Those women, Tommy Fambro, after all of these years, I remember her name, and oh my gosh, and this was before 84, but every year the United Methodist women at our church would have a reunion, a homecoming, and so I met Tommy at that reunion, probably in 1982, 83, so it would have been in 84. Anyways, but the next year she wasn't there, and people kept talking about how she had cancer and she was going to die, and and how sad it was, blah 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 blah, and I couldn't understand why we didn't pray for her. And then she died, and it's not that I was upset that she died. My whole piece was we didn't pray for her specifically as a group, and who knows, maybe she wouldn't have died so soon, or so quickly. We just talked about it, and I guess you can see how much that means still to me, that I can remember her name 40 years later. 38 years later. Yeah, so from the heart of a woman is a key thing there. Okay, well, let's see. Jean's prayed. Cody, would you pray us out today?
I sure will.
Thank you.
Dear Lord, we're so thankful for all the wonderful blessings that you bestow upon each and every one of us. We're so thankful that you allow us to learn and grow, and you allow us to help others learn and grow. And Lord, you've just been so gracious to us. And I thank you for this group. I thank you for this class, the lessons that we've learned and the lessons that we will take away. And Lord, I just ask that you be with us as we go throughout this weekend, and help us to be your hands and feet, and to look for opportunities to be your word, and to spread your faith. And Lord, help us not to just see those as opportunities, but to act on them. Lord, we're so thankful again for this class and for everything you do for us. And we just we ask all these things in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. All right, y'all. I'll see you on the boards.
Sounds good.
Cody,
Thanks.
have a wonderful time. Many blessings upon you.
I will. Pray for me this week because it's junior high kids. So
Got it. We are with
yeah,
you,
it'll be great. It'll be great. So
and you'll be great. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm leaving you.
thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.